stop around 8:45, so I can have time to start, presentation.
They told him, don't you ever come around here. Don't wanna see your face, you better disappear. The fire's in their eyes and the words are really clear. So beat it, beat it. You better run, you better do what you can. Don't wanna see no blood, don't be a macho man. You wanna
Jeszcze parę słów, zanim zaczniemy panel. O 19:00 zaczynamy networkingowe przyjęcie. 19:00, tak? Powiedziałem 19:00. Z przekąskami, napojami, piwo, wino, więc zapraszamy, tak jak to już było napisane w mailingu. Just to repeat, at 7 we start networking party. So if by any chance discussion will be still going, let's make a break for some music, drinks and snacks, and then we can continue after that. But at 7, you're all welcome to join the party, and I think it's also a great occasion to continue discussion.
Can we bring our forks?
Forks. Yeah. It's like I think we have a lot of forks. I'm not sure if we need more, but maybe after the discussion we will know something more about that. Oh, okay. So the party is at 7, and right now I think it's time to start our discussion. Maybe a few words. It would be better if all of you just introduce yourself quickly.
You want to do my job here or what?
No. Sorry. I shut up already. So just to introduce, Ignacio, Interactive 4 will be moderating this panel about building Magento Open Source future. I think I can say it clearly. This is like the most important panel of the day, and as I said before, it may take longer than scheduled, but we'll see.
Okay, thank you very much, Kuba, and I want to thank also, the invitation for being moderating this panel. For me, it's such an honor, and I think it's time you guys to present yourself and also saying what you represent. I think your time.
Okay, I'm Tymoteusz Motylewski. I'm coming from Macopedia. I'm CTO there. We got 70 people, but on the open source side, I'm also a maintainer of OpenMage, so the Magento 1 keeping alive, and also a core contributor for Typo 3 and contributor for other open source communities.
Thank you.
I'm Danny Verkade, and I'm the treasurer of the Magento Association, as well as the CTO of an agency called Cream in the Netherlands.
Okay, Vinai.
My name is Vinai. I'm a Magento developer and a partner at Hyva, company together with Willem. And I don't know what else to say. So let's move on.
Hi. My name is Matthias Schreiber. I'm the CEO of the Typo 3 company, because we have an association and a company assigned to that. And I'm here to give some insights how we tackle things.
Yeah, we will come back to that point later on.
My name is Willem Wichman, Magento developer and owner of Hyva teams together with Vinai, where we try to make merchants and developers' life easier with Magento.
Good.
And I'm Slava Kravchuk, and I'm involved in Magento Association and Adwix, but long-term community member, and I think on a basic level, I'm a human being. There is no need to separate us, I guess, because we are fundamentally the same. I think we all want the same thing, and if you put yourself in one box, you become lonely, because in the end there would be just one, I don't know, vice president of the Magento Association, but there are many community members and many human beings. So that's the first, I think, role for me. Thank you.
Okay, so this is taking us to the first question. I don't know who's going to take this lead. Maybe the one that is a little bit invitation due, Matti. Huh? Which is the type of the organization that you represent? Like, because we really want to understand which is your opinion about Magento Association in here.
So in a nutshell, Typo 3 was founded back in 97 and then officially released in 99. So it's a rather old product. We called it mature because old sounds shitty, right? So it's a mature open source project. And at a certain point, like open source develops, you start something, it grows, it becomes too big, and you need some sort of entity to manage stuff. And the management is rather simple things. Like, so we met up with 100 nerds going snowboarding. Who rents the place, right? For the first couple of years, it was an individual taking all the risk, renting a place out for a hotel that has a capacity of 100 people. And at a certain point, we decided we don't want to impose that personal risk onto a single person. We need some form of entity for that. And on the other hand, we had Kasper Skarhoy from Copenhagen, who basically invented Typo 3, and he was living off donations. And so the money flow wasn't stable enough to support his life. Then he got a child, you know, those kind of things. So we decided we are going to found an association, which is based in Switzerland. Basically because taxes in Switzerland for associations are like really low. And we figured we can have more of the member money flowing towards the project. And that was 2004. And then things started evolving over time, and as a natural process, stuff within the association happens slowly. And at a certain point, the association or the members of the association decided that they wanted to have something that could make it go faster. And instead of painting it red, because red things go fast, we've decided to found a company to, which isn't, say, bound by all the voluntary work that's happening, because it's in the nature of voluntary work that you don't get the same pace as if you have like full-time employees that run stuff. And then the company was founded, which is owned 100% by the Typo 3 Association, which in return is 100% owned by its members. So that's why our setup is maybe a little bit special.
It's very interesting. Does any one of you see any parallelism with the Typo 3 organization right now with the Magento Association?
It's the other way around, basically.
That was my thought.
Yeah, the Adobe, well, back in the day, it was still Magento, decided that they wanted to have an association, and they started up the process to form the association. So instead of the association owning the company, Magento created a non-profit called the Magento Association.
I would like to add to that. So I do see a parallel in that both projects have a very vibrant and partially vocal community, right? So that's certainly something.
Everybody's vocal.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's true for every open source project, but it certainly is for Typo 3 and for Magento. So that's something where we meet or overlap. And also, at least in Germany, there actually is a lot of overlap in person. So a lot of people who are working in Typo 3 started working in the Magento context too, back in the day. And still are, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think that Matti can be one of the examples here, Timothy. Can you explain us their point of view? How can we draw the future of Magento Open Source right now?
What could be what?
Picture the future of Magento. How can we build it?
Well, you know, everybody knows that the Magento is not just a product. It's not when you implement Magento, when you use the shop, it's not just about the product itself, but also the whole ecosystem, which, you know, there is Adobe, which is a very important part of it. There is a marketplace merchant with integrations, different kind of vendors, agencies, and a community of people, you know, all kinds of, from developers to end users. So I think that there is enough critical mass for this product to strive forward. Well, whatever the path will be, because there are so many people who dedicated their time and their passion to that.
Yeah, I'm putting you in a little bit hard question here about, because you are a member of the Typo, and also also you are dealing with Magento. If you see some parallelism with it, and how can you think we can improve the current state that we have in order to have a brighter Magento open source future? What are the things that you should put in place in order to make that happen?
Yeah, I see. That both projects can learn a lot from each other. So on the one hand, from type of free side, we can learn, how to build the ecosystem around product and services. On the other hand, I see that on the Magento side, can learn a lot from type of free about fostering open source and managing open source community, how to learn together, how to set a vision, how to grow the product.
Okay. Slava.
Yes.
How was more or less, down the road, what you did in the, the Magento Association since the beginning until now that you think that can help us in order to make a better future of Magento open source?
Could you repeat what was my role or what was?
No, your role. What the association in this case, are orchestrating in order to prevent and also to draw a bright future for the open source.
Yes. So the association itself was founded with a much broader vision, not just the open source, but everything around Magento, the community of Magento, and in my view, that encompasses more. I know the open source is the topic of the panel, but the association's goal and mission was not only open source, but events. And for example, Meet Magento, which is why we are here now, is Magento Association's series of events, so facilitating events and serving the ecosystem in the whole. So there is a commercial product of Adobe, and we need to, I think, not separate it from open source as well. But to me, it's also Magento community. It's the same community, it's same people, and we can work with both. Now the open source question, it was something that we at the association were thinking about for a long time, and also started the dialogue with Adobe on its future and potential plans and how this product can be closer integrated with the community, so to speak. And in the process of this conversation also, we met with Vinai and William. Those guys also, in parallel, they felt the urgency of this question, and they somehow kind of developed that energy and channeled it, and also came to discuss to compare notes, so to speak, to see what the vision is and how we can kind of drive this together. And now this topic is even more hot after having the open letter to the community, which I think made a nice promotion for this event in particular. And we still debate whether that's a hidden marketing tactic from Kuba to have people coming from Canada and United States apparently to the event that wouldn't have happened without it. So all of that kind of made, I think, clear that now probably associations' efforts are needed more than ever, specifically in this topic of Magento Open Source as a product, because it's something that a lot of livelihoods and businesses are dependent on. It's something that's a base for the wide Magento community, and people are naturally concerned what will be with it. And I think association now is in a unique place where it's a well-established organization that is recognized by Adobe. We have representative of Adobe on board. We have liaison. So we're able to facilitate the dialogue between the community and Adobe and be this platform to form a vision and decide, maybe suggest what are the ways we see. Because association is not here to dictate. I'm as a board member, my mission is not to dictate the community how you all should behave or what you should be doing, what your plans should be. But the association is here to take this energy, gather it, and channel this feedback to Adobe and channel Adobe's feedback and vision to the community and be this point where those two meet and hopefully great things born in this cooperation. So I see association as a platform for these future steps.
Okay. Willem. Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Okay.
Do you have a question for me?
Yeah, the questions are quite complicated here right now, so it's getting hot. So, what was, let's say, maybe the trigger, because we write a letter, that everybody is like listening up to us right now. Even the conversation or the reply from Slava is also maybe a consequence of things that are happening right now. So what was the trigger? What is the intention behind the letter that in this case I was also signing, so.
Okay. Fair question.
Fair question.
I come from a background where I started working with Magento as a freelancer fresh from school, while studying still. I built my first web shop for 1,500 euros.
Wow.
Felt good.
That's too expensive.
There was so much money in that time.
Yeah.
And I failed at a lot of things. And I learned a lot of things from that first project, but the merchant didn't complain because it was cheap. Magento 1 enabled us to do that. I mean, still, they would call me on Friday evening, but I was a student, so I would do the work at that time. Those are really great times, I think of fondly. Magento was so open as a system and a platform that I, as a student, could use it and earn money with it. It's fantastic. That grew into a profession. I started an agency, faced some challenges there, but I grew a company there, and I became a professional developer. And from there, I needed to end my agency related to Magento 2.0 release, but let's not go there. But I had a break there, and I ended up working at Internet agency in Germany, where I spent a lot of time getting better at Magento development and really became a more pro developer. Getting really good at Magento 2 was a lot more difficult than getting good at Magento 1. I think these days the requirement to get started with Magento is a lot higher. So we don't see the typical student getting started with Magento and succeed there. It's bigger agencies that become bigger, and agencies train new developers, but they're part of a big agency. There's not so much new blood in our community. Right now, I own a company that rebuilt the current Magento 2 front end in a less complex way. So we reduced complexity and we ship less code. That's the tagline. So we made it a lot easier for developers to build a shop with Magento 2. And on a daily basis, I speak to over 1,000 developers working with my software, over 200 agencies, and the response that I'm getting is, we were about to lose our business. We were a Magento agency, and we couldn't compete anymore. We couldn't attract new developers. We couldn't deliver on time. We're at a place where we want to build with Magento, but the platform is stagnant as a monolith. Like, the current front end hasn't seen much innovation, and everything is moving towards decoupled services, microservices, and headless approach. Those agencies tell me we lost our business to other platforms, other agencies doing other platforms, offering lower prices for a build for a web shop. Thanks to your product, we're able to compete there again. You made my business viable again. And I can't get rid of the sense of urgency to push that forward and go a level deeper with that. Magento, as a whole, could become more accessible to junior developers and smaller agencies. The way that the platform is moving currently, adds more complexity. So that's the opposite direction of where I would like to go. And I don't see it well being Adobe's right to make the product more enterprise. It's their product, and I understand it. It's a good market, and a lot of agencies are able to go along in that direction. But the SMB market that I care about, the agencies that I speak to on a daily basis, they are lost. They don't feel like the Magento platform has a future for them long term. They're uncertain. There's no roadmap. There's no announcements on where Magento 2 open source is going to go. Is that my time limit?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to ask Vinai, in this case, wow. how is his vision on about what Willem saying, and how can you transform or drive to another direction, the current situation?
Right. So to build on what you said, I think there's a Magento-shaped hole in the ecosystem, right? In this SMB ecosystem. After looking around for other platforms, I still haven't found anything that has the flexibility of Magento. And after I saw what Willem built with Hyva, it really opened my eyes to see what potential exists in Magento, right? So I think we can take Magento, make it simpler, and empower the community to fill this hole and attract new developers, grow the ecosystem, and move it into the future. Because Magento finally has reached a stage after it was released in 2015, that is Magento 2, right? Where it's stable enough, upgrades aren't painful anymore. It's actually a good platform now, right? So rather than saying, oh, there's no more development, nothing's happening, oh, let's have a look around, I don't feel secure building my future on it, let's take it into our own hands and make a future for it, right? I mean, it's open source after all. That's what you did with Hyva, and that's what we're supposed to do, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Great.
I mean, one great thing about open source in general, right? I mean, who has had the conversation, the pie ain't big enough anymore, right? I think everybody had that. The great thing about open source is, let's get more pie, right? So we had the same situation in the Type 3 ecosystem. People were complaining, wow, because we've been around long before WordPress even existed. So suddenly this WordPress thing pops up, and that they have like, I don't know, 110% market share, if you believe it. And it's just like everybody was complaining about it. So what do we do? WordPress eating off our market share, and I was just, well, get more pie. The pie ain't big enough anymore. We'll just get more pie. And that's always possible with open source because you get so many different perspectives, and you're not locked into your silo of thinking. I can only do, I don't know, clothes, right? Or I can only do B2B wholesale selling screws or copper pipes or whatever. But you get more perspectives from more people. And that helps, at least it helps me, break out of a specific silo and start looking at things in a different way because I get more opinions in and not just stakeholder opinions, because those are often very limited.
So in your case, the enabler for that is the organization itself, do you think?
It's fostering of open source. The organization helps, for sure, but the driving force behind it is getting more people together and sharing more experiences to basically see more silos, and then start seeing the overlaps between those and then forming a vision from that.
Yeah, I understand, but maybe because this power, driven by community, is somehow organized by organization itself.
Yeah, but it's very, very little organizing force or help support necessary.
Yeah.
So the people are amazing in doing their own stuff, and it's more about connecting people rather than buying plane tickets.
I understand. So then, do you think that there's, or any of you, do you think that there isn't any common ground that we can, I don't know, build something under the umbrella of the Magento Association that can guarantee the future of Magento Open Source?
You need me to guarantee the future right now, right here. That's a bit difficult, but I do see that the Magento Association is in the right spot to take on such an endeavor. And obviously, we've discussed this before as well, and that's why we created the Open Task Force for the open source system to try to come up with a business plan by the end of the year about the future of open source together with Adobe. That's now that's now being closed. The D&I Commission has suggested a couple of people to be on that commission, on that task force, and the board needs to sign off on that. So that's the first step. We're looking to have the first meeting in early October to drive that effort forward. So yeah, I do see there's a joint effort between that task force as well as Adobe to bring the community and Adobe with the open source platform together.
One question here about the committees and task forces, because they're like popping up, from time to time. People are getting on those committees and task forces and everything. Nobody knows, about who is really in those committees. And I think that maybe will be a good change in the Magento Association to change the way they communicate some things. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about that, Vinai?
Oh, sure. No, I am okay. So I think the open source task force that the association started is great. Don't get me right. That's very good. To be honest, I signed up as a member, but I don't really know too much what's happening there. So I applied to be part of it. But I have a sense, I have an itch. I think it's time to act, to move, right? So the difference that I see is speed, right? The association has a structure working with a big, huge corporation, and rules they gave themselves for a good reason, like diversity, representation, all kinds of things that we don't have, right? The people who signed the letter, who want to make stuff happen, can move faster. And that's a good thing, because I think we actually capture an energy that's present. And if that isn't captured, it gets frustrated. And just talking to people, I know it's not just me. There are more people like that around. So I think these two efforts are actually very complementary and go hand in hand. I don't see it as going against each other at all. What we are doing is we are providing energy and feedback that can feed into the task force to move it exactly where it needs to be. I think left on its own, I don't feel like that's the thing. We need to get started. We need to get moving to energize the whole process, right? And because there is so much hanging off this, right? So many livelihoods, so many people working about it, so many people invested in Magento, and I don't want to see that go to waste. And that is no way intended as going against Adobe or the association here. It's more like we are providing a missing ingredient. That's my view.
Well, and I think if the community comes together and shares that vision as well, that will trigger a stronger message to Adobe, because the more people that are behind it, the stronger that voice will be, right?
I hope so. I mean, who knows who's listening, but hello, we're here. Pay attention to us, please. Come on. Yeah.
Is that normal?
Normally not on camera, not in public, no.
Just kidding.
All right, you are letting me making all the questions. You don't question yourself, so you're giving me too much responsibility in here.
Oh, okay.
So, what do you think? Are the what we need to avoid right now? What we need to put in the table right now in order to this make happen? like a working together in a common ground, you know, the Magento Association, whatever other initiatives out there, in order to catalyst to speed up the process?
I mean, I think that the biggest missing ingredient is trust here, and you can build trust on first of all being honest about your intentions, about your vision, about your goals, and then also having actions being in line with what you are saying, and of course doing stuff, making stuff happen, and
quick wins.
Sorry?
Quick wins. No, we were talking about quick wins.
And what Vinai and Willem did was really eye-opening for me personally, and I think many other people in the community, because for many years, you know, I heard a lot of complaining like, yeah, this Magento front and it's slow, and then it's, you know, all technologies and all that stuff, and when people start asking themselves, you know, what can we do to change that? And they were, well, it's hard to change because we would need to rewrite the whole thing. And for all the people for so many years, it was a stopper. It's too big. And those guys just did it. And they showed that even such a big change as, you know, replacing the whole front and make it more robust and more fun to work with, it's possible. I mean, and with very limited resources.
Do you think maybe that when you say lack of transparency, is that we will need to improve the way the Magento Association is communicating everything that they do in the daily basics?
Is that from Adobe, the trust and the lack of transparency, or from MA?
I don't think it's Adobe in this case. I mean, I didn't read it as Adobe.
The trust has to be coming from both sides, right? So both sides, everybody involved has to be clear about the vision, about the goals, about the intentions. And to be honest, I'm in the Magento community from over 10 years, right? And right now I have no idea what's the vision for the official vision for Magento Open Source. I don't know that, and I would like to know.
It will be good to hear about a task force that should put in place a plan about what's going to be the strategy around the open source. That's what I'm trying to ask you, Slava, that maybe by the time this task force was, you know, happening, I mean, it's not like sending a newsletter, maybe, you know, something even more like a noisy, you know, to people can join, and maybe we will have another situation right now.
Do you follow me on Twitter?
I don't.
Yeah, it's time to do that. Then you won't miss the updates. But seriously speaking, it's I think generally, of course, Magento Association is by no means an ideal organization. It's driven by people like us, like me, Danny, rest of the board, we're volunteers, and there is only kind of so much time and effort we can put into it, but we're trying our best. And for this particular task force, the announcement was sent to all the members over email, it was tweeted, I personally tweeted it, labeling that it's your chance to decide the future of Magento Open Source, get involved please. I mean, I could go and knock each and everybody's door, but that would take much more time. But I don't think it was a secret that the task force is there. The other thing is trust, you mentioned. Maybe the question is not that people didn't hear the message. The question maybe is, do people trust that this task force will do something? And that's a valid question. And I think it's up to the members to prove it. And I think there is no lack of motivation from people here. Like if you would look at Vinai and the way Vinai just explained things, what I thought is, you know, usually people lose energy when they get older. And I remember Vinai 10 years ago, and I think Vinai has much more enthusiasms now than he used to have back then. And I mean, it amazes me, and that's a really good sign. And the open letter, like all the controversy, okay, on Twitter, there was a hell of a flame and different opinions, but ultimately it's a good thing because it shows that Magento community cares, that there is a lot of passion, and it needs to be put into good use. And there is a saying that if you want to go quick, go alone. If you want to go far, take a company, don't go alone. And now there could be different stages, and I understand that guys maybe to kickstart this, they wanted to do this alone in a smaller group, and that's fine. But ultimately, we all end up in a similar situation. So whenever you would proceed further, any organization, for example, a group of people behind this initiative now, behind the open letter, they would face, I think, the same issues that we face as the association. And they will come, it's inevitable. And you would need to not only move fast, but make sure you represent everybody in the community. People will demand transparency, rightfully demand transparency. And this is not something that happens, for example, now with the open letter, right? Because you guys decide, like there are 1,000 people who signed it, right? But then you see blog posts, oh, I signed the open letter, but then I thought for a few hours and I think, you know, I agree, but, and a blog post. So people agree with it in theory because people they want more. They want more from open source. They want this product to develop. They're passionate. That's what I think this signature means. But now the devil is in the details. Like, what exactly are you going to do? And who exactly are you going to represent? Are there merchants? Are there technology providers behind this initiative? All the members of the ecosystem who come up with this plan or not? Because that's when the plan is released, then I mean, things will heat up and there will be a difference of opinions. So I invite, that's why I say, like, from the start, we can use the task force as an open platform, which can be as transparent as you guys, the member of the task force, would wish. If you want to stream the meetings on YouTube, so be it. It's fine. If you want to communicate in any way you want, that's also fine. But we need to understand that association is not something that's kind of far from us, and we kind of hope or expect something from it. It's us, it's people, it's members, and we need to self-organize ourselves into those groups, which we call committees or work groups or task force, meet anytime we want. It's not like we need to meet only when the association management company can host this meeting or whatever. You guys can decide to meet every other day and make a decision, come up to something. That's a way to try working together, including Adobe, because right now, if the group puts together a plan and puts a lot of effort into making this plan, and that plan takes into its base assumptions about Adobe's plans, which are not true, not realistic, then the whole plan will be invalid when it's released. Why not to involve Adobe, for example, at the beginning and tell them, okay, guys, we see this, this, and this. Is this true, or are things different? Should we change our assumptions, and then based on that, work further, and then kind of come up to mutual strategy? And yeah, that's my vision.
Yeah, I think as a theoretically a way of doing, I would agree with you, but sometimes, you know, reading between lines, you know, things like volunteer, you know, it's like at the end, you know, you have more things to do, and maybe just the whole process is a little bit slow, you know, to have, you know, because you need to agree in many meetings, and then, you know, like propose something to the board, and the board needs to be have a meeting again, and then coming back, and things, you know, going to Adobe maybe, and then come. I mean, takes too much. I think in this case we're a little bit lost in bureaucracy, and maybe we will need to change. What do you think, William, about that?
Are you picking random people to answer?
I have to admit I'm completely lost, because didn't you say earlier that the association is the vessel to communicate with Adobe and vice versa?
It is a platform. It's
so
not
that
like
technically, to me, that means that when the community uses the association as a vessel to voice its concerns, so to say, why should they bypass that, and then why should they talk to Adobe when you are the official vessel to talk to Adobe? I just don't understand. This is like a
that's the exact reason why we created the task force.
Yeah, no, but didn't you do? Or maybe I got it wrong, because it's hard to hear because we got the machines running and stuff. But maybe I got that wrong. But I was under the assumption you said that the people that wrote the open letter and have assumptions about Adobe strategy should talk to Adobe directly.
No. I'm saying the association is here to facilitate the dialogue.
Got it.
This should have been there, like this should have been in their court.
Okay.
So yeah, I was wrong. We felt a really strong sense of urgency to get a clear vision on our future, what our work, our life with Magento looks like in 5 or 10 years. And we believe that some of the things that we need from that platform are different from what Adobe needs from that platform. And it's really hard to plan for the future if something is being taken care of completely behind closed doors, and if there is no public roadmap, if there's no public communication about what continued support of Magento, what that means. Like, we can get stuck on the word deprecation, but in a sense, they said Luma would be deprecated, and there came a lot of backlash, so they decided not to use those words anymore. Instead, Luma is on live support. We'll never get a better hatful front end in that sense. I don't expect that the admin will see any revivement, that the admin panel will see any improvement, that any energy will go into innovation on that platform. From all the architectural schemas that you see, things are moving away from the monolith. And the monolith, in the end, becomes a fallback, a legacy fallback mechanism. So merchants currently on the monolith can keep using that monolith for work they already have, so that's backwards compatible with all the microservices, but all these microservices together will make up the new landscape that's Adobe Commerce. And the monolith is a small part in that architectural schema that is being fed water and bread to keep it alive. But I feel like Luma, I would consider Luma on live support, like they still maintain it, but that's it. And we believe real innovation can still happen on a platform because we saw it with our own eyes. We created innovation on that platform and were fueled by it. And we want to get that sense back of having control over that platform. So we thought really long and hard about what we can do right now to make sure that we can make some decisions for our own business. So what can we do to make sure that if Adobe decides to make a business decision that I can only endorse, like it's their product, again, they can do whatever they want with that platform, it's in their full right. They can deprecate MySQL like they did. They can introduce Elasticsearch and say, well, tomorrow MySQL is off the table. That has a major impact on 80% of the SMB market. We've seen that. agencies needed to learn Elasticsearch. Hosts would provide extra services. The merchant would have to pay extra for Elasticsearch. And it would add another layer of abstraction, make it more complex to get started. So again, if I'm thinking about that small agency, the small merchant, the student that wants to get started with Magento, he's not being helped by an extra requirement of Elasticsearch. Because like Redis and Varnish and then Elasticsearch, it all comes with a certain expertise that's more difficult to get started with. So what can we do today to start plan a bit of our future without being held back by the structure of the organization currently leading it, without being held back by what is good for Adobe's platform, but how can we do this in a harmonious way so that we keep this community apart, keep them together, and prevent them from falling apart, prevent these smaller agencies from dropping out of the Magento ecosystem, going for other platforms. And the solution for us, the best one right now, as a safeguard, would be to create a fork. And we very clearly stated that this would be, that we imagine this should be an upstream compatible fork. So that means we keep tagging along with whatever Adobe is doing. So everything that happens in the main Magento product, we integrate into our fork, and we get our infrastructure going. We learn, we make mistakes by creating a fork and maintaining it, and slowly starting to inventorize or like to discuss what we think would be improvements to that platform to make it more accessible to the smaller merchants and agencies. So how can we slim down Magento, reduce the complexity, and still remain compatible with upstream? So you won't depend on our security patches because Adobe still provides them. We're still very much alike. Magento would be our big brother. We would have a slimmed down version that's more accessible. And if we have a new feature, it can be merged within a week. And if it's very good, it can be pushed upstream and Adobe can accept it. It could be integrated into the main product. There's several ways that we can do this in a harmonious way. But if we start that fork on short term, and it's our little project, we get people involved, and we build the expertise. We build the expertise to get good at it. And when in 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, something happens that makes the platform, the main platform, less compatible, or another change comes, like Elasticsearch and MySQL is deprecated, something like that, we can choose, do we inherit that from upstream, or do we choose to keep MySQL and add Elasticsearch on top of that so it remains accessible for the smaller merchant? This is something that we could do today. This is something that we can do in a non-hostile way. This means we can keep a community together. People that are now leaving because it's too complex or they're obstructed by whatever, they can work on our version of the fork, and that remains within the same ecosystem. So you as an agency could also work with the one version and the other version. I see that work really well in long term. I think at some point that might serve Adobe really well. If it's the case, I don't know the roadmap, I would really like to know the roadmap, but at some point they might want to say, we have our whole new landscape of microservices, and we don't really want to invest in maintaining Magento anymore, and there is this other initiative, and it's running really well. We endorse that. Hopefully, from our vision, we're doing this now because we can move fast, we can make decisions, we can get going, make mistakes. While we are doing this, we want to keep open dialogue, we want to keep all the doors open to the association, to Adobe. Hopefully, the association can join us as soon as possible. I think they're a bit obstructed and moving fast, so we can make a headway, we can pave the way, we can already make some of the mistakes so they don't have to, we can gain some of the knowledge. I applied for the open source task force, Vinai did. We are very willing to invest in our version of Magento. And what we have been missing is our voice. We're talking to a big corp, and they have different interests than us, and they don't feel the necessity that much, I think.
Yeah, but in this case, I think that there was something built in order to be heard by Adobe. Then was the Magento Association was one of the main reasons, happened. So there's people here, trying to make my job a little bit easier. So they're sending me some questions. Thank you very much. I don't know who was the one that was sneaking all of these questions here. But I mean, among all of them, I really want to go through the one that it's like trying to be a little bit more, more details about the real process of a task force, open source task force. How is the process itself? And what are the stages? What are the main goals? What are which is the timeline that you have already in place in order to make this task force, a reality? Because
the process to get it formed, or the process to get it formed, or like when
a little bit more further than that. Like first a reality. What are the steps needed, to be a reality, and then what will be, the following things that you need to do in order to make a proper decision and when, in the next future.
Like I said before, there was an open call that's been closed on September the 10th. The DNI, the Diversity Commission, has suggested from that list who applied the members who should be there on the task force. It's now to the board to sign off on that, and then the task force will be created. First meeting will be beginning of October, that's the plan. And for that task force, their mission is to have a viable business plan for open source before the end of the year.
So end of the year is the...
Yes.
Okay, is the date. Okay. Do you think that it's going to be able, by the end of the year, to organize effective meetings in order that people can make any, I don't know, like a real business plan to present? Because for me right now, I think October is just around the corner. The peak season is there. Yeah. All of us, we are pretty busy right now with Black Friday.
But I think
stuff.
we all get the kind of the sense of urgency, right? The Magento community as a whole, I guess we all see it as a bit struggling at this point. That's why this initiative was created as well. So yeah, as the board of the Magento Association acknowledges that time pressure as well, so that's why we have this deadline before the end of the year. But you also need to have like enough time in order to create a viable business plan. So I'm glad that Willem and Vinai applied for that as well, because they are already a step ahead and they have some kind of a blueprint to work on, which could work in that task force and looked at by the other members as well.
What do you say about that, Vinay?
Yeah, I believe open source, that's something you said actually, right? Not today, but you told me open source, the person who does something is right.
Yeah.
It's not...
Whoever delivers is right.
That's what you said, exactly.
There's
Thank
no
you.
arguing in code.
So, if we happen to be the people who start doing whatever needs to be done, that basically just puts us in the position. And I don't think we're here to represent everybody in the community. We just represent, like I'm representing myself in the end, right? And our little company here, and many others, and the merchants that we work for. Because this whole story that we're building in the end, right? I'm talking about our livelihoods and everything. In the end, it's for the merchants, and the whole task force should be something that's actually working towards something that makes sense from a business perspective for the merchants. And I believe we can deliver that. So Adobe is focusing on the enterprise market. That's what their actions say. And Adobe says they're also interested in the SMB market. And I don't want to judge that. I think some people probably believe it. Some people have maybe a different understanding of what SMB is compared to what I think it is. And that's totally okay, right?
I actually think there's a definition for that.
Oh, okay. While you look it up, let me just, before I lose my thought.
Thanks for the help.
Okay,
yeah.
so I think what we bring to the table is real concrete ideas how to open up the part of the market that I understand as SMB to Adobe. Because if Adobe creates these services, product recommendation, live search, stock, pay, whatever, right? And if they are interested in the SMB market, why do Magento builds have to be that expensive that they exclude a big part of it, right? So I believe we can make the Magento ecosystem accessible for a much larger, lower-end market, and that would effectively open that market up for the reach of these Adobe services if they make sense for those merchants, right?
And there is always a synergy between the open source product and the enterprise product. And it feels like it's not seen enough as a valuable proposition. The open source Magento market is shrinking. And I really believe that we have it within our power to make it grow again. All the e-commerce markets are growing. All the other platforms are growing. The Magento open source platform is shrinking. And I think we can reverse that because we have a wonderful platform. There's so much untouched potential there. We can grow that. By growing that, we open the door from the lower end of the market towards the enterprise Adobe Commerce product. So growing the market as a total, if we can maintain a version of Magento that's upstream compatible, that works in harmony with the rest of the ecosystem, that's a win for Adobe.
I have a question because sometimes, you know, we get a lot of confused in the market about talking about open source and the enterprise product and something that compete all the time. But I think that the enterprise level product will not exist if open source, you know, was there, right? So at the end, it's not. I mean, what we're talking about is not a licensing model. It's like improving the product altogether, making contribution and in a common ground that we can make this platform better and engage people to join, you know, the movement altogether. And this is something that is misunderstood, in my opinion, you know, sometimes by salespeople all the time. I think that it's our responsibility as well, you know, to explain that and out there. And because sometimes, you know, I mean, I'm part of this ecosystem as a company owner as well. You know, I do open source. We contribute. We do open source. We also have a big merchants, license cloud, Adobe, and we do business with it. But I think at the end, you know, we understood the benefit of contributing and involving and maintaining a product that was based on open source, you know, in order to make I made my living with this. So, and I'm proud of it. That my concern in this case, as an individual, as an human being, as you said, because I'm a human being as well. I'm a father of 3 kids, so it's like you know, I really want to see a bright future that, you know, instead of losing members, something that we can sell out there with the passion of Vinai was talking, that can embrace more people to join us as we were something like 3 years ago, not that long. I mean, even though, you know, when we had problems with Magento 2, we were all together in this, and we solved a lot of things, you know, in order to make Magento 2 with the version that it is right now. We went through a lot of things. I mean, I was building projects 3 times, all the cost, you know, on our shoulder, and I couldn't blame anyone. I just, you know, tried to contribute to the core in order to like not fixing Magento to the client, fixing Magento to Magento, that everyone, you know, could benefit from that, and then, you know, take it as a starting point for something new in the future, and then evolving as it is right now. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking, you know, it's too much. So, Kuba, where you are? He's not here? Out. Kuba, you wanted to make a question, you said to me. So I think it's time, because we have something like 20 minutes left, so. Yeah, I know, but I'm gonna get the, you know, the right that I'm moderating about. I mean, I know that questions are gonna be there, people can read them, but I'm not gonna go through questions about like I can position something in a harm way or not. I mean, I'm not gonna allow that in this case. I think that the panel is going in a direction about, you know, trying to build something in common and aligning some
Really
ideas.
great things happened this week. Like I'm so happy that we did this. The outcome is already positive. Adobe opens up, is reaching out to us, to the association and we are talking and we're making progress and things are actually happening. Stuff is moving. So I'm super content.
Yeah, I think that there is no bad intention in anything, about building an association that you are, guys, that you work in voluntary.
And to be clear, we both have the
yeah,
same
do
goal,
you
right?
care?
We want to have a prospering Magento community as a
yeah,
whole.
I respect a lot, what you're doing. I think it's not easy at all, connecting all the dots and trying to, have a common thing to work on in different areas, events and code and finding sponsors, get funding and then, trying to, make things moving. It's very difficult. But it comes here, some of the questions that people are asking. It's everything about uncertainty, people uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
That there is no a proper, let's say, roadmap about things that can be changed in the next future. How would you manage the roadmap? You were talking about that out there. Yes.
Hi.
How is how you manage the roadmap or the product in Typo? How you I don't know, put in the calendar when are going to be major changes?
So I mean, it's to be honest, sitting in the middle of all this is kind of hurtful for me, and I really mean that. Because we went through the exact same process with the Typo 3 Association. It was a few guys trying to do the right thing, failed, because that's what you do when you try this for the first time, you will fail, right? And then there was a lot of concerns from the outside, a lot of heat that everybody got. Maybe I caused some of it back in the day. So I know how that feels like. We went through a time without a roadmap with Typo 3, which is now considered the deathbed of Typo 3. And we kind of walked in with a defibrillator and got it back. So having a roadmap is not important. It's vital. It's the most important thing in open source that you can have, because people need to know what they're getting into, and it's not that it's not a thing like, yeah, it's nice to have to tell people what we plan in the future. You have to understand that people base their financial existence on that roadmap. It's important to embrace that and understand that. Having a roadmap affects people's lives. And not having a roadmap also affects people's life, but in a negative way. So we went through the exact same things, to come back to your question. And what we did is we decided that we will prioritize release dates over feature sets and over promises. And it was a risk that we took because we had no clue how the community would react to that. Because it's like everybody knows what happens to plans, right? Who wanted to be a millionaire by the age of 30? How did that work out, right? And so we decided that we would emphasize more a fixed release date over features that we would promise. And the agencies actually embraced that really, really well. So there were, of course, there were people complaining about, yeah, but you said you would have feature whatever, X in the system. We were like, well...
How you combine the commercial side of it and the open source side of it?
Well, we decided to go for a rather quick release cycle of 18 months. So there's a major version every 18 months. There's an LTS, a long-term support version, every 18 months. And that comes with free of charge, we'll call it free of charge support by the community for 3 years. After that period, the company takes over. You can then buy into paid support if you want to extend the lifetime of your site longer than that. So it adds up to a total between 6 or 7 years, depending on demand. So we add another 3 or 4 years to those LTS versions. The good thing is that since we've been doing this since, Timek, help me out, when did we release version 7? 2015?
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, something along those lines. And since then, we've met every single release date except for one, which we postponed by 1 week. So agencies were able to long-term plan with their clients together. So we now have a project for a large builder of commercial airplanes, and I'll leave that up to your imagination, there aren't that many, which is a 15-year plan. Like, we build the site, then we're going to go with the community support, then we go onto ELTS, which extended long-term support, onto the ELTS, and then after that, we plan the upgrade to the next major version, and then move onwards from there. And it's like they can plan that up to a specific calendar week. And this is something that not only the agencies, but also the clients really embrace and like. And they are completely understanding that we cannot deliver every feature that we dreamt of 1.5 years before releasing the new version, right? Because plans change and things go wrong, and sometimes pandemics hit.
Yes.
Right?
How do you handle security releases? Surely you don't wait 18 months.
No. On top of that, we actually have a minor or maintenance release schedule, which is put in place a year in advance. So you know the exact dates when releases are expected to come.
Mm-hmm.
Those could be security releases, but don't have to be. But you at least can plan a maintenance window. Super zero-day stuff obviously goes beside that. But we have a pretty dedicated security team, and the releases are like, I think, every 8 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Those are the schedules. And sometimes there's this, and this is when people complain about stuff, is when there's no release, because we said, well, there's nothing important that we could ship. Right?
Who you think, Slava, is the one that should write this roadmap of the product itself? I'm talking about the open source one. Obviously, the enterprise one is not the case.
The one, obviously, it can be written by anybody, but it will only make sense if those who are in charge of releases write it, because those people will be committed to deliver it. And right now, Magento Open Source is maintained by Adobe. So Adobe probably has some kind of a plan, and it can share it probably, or make some sort of public version of it. But if the guys, for example, decide to go with fork on their own, that will be a separate product. They will have their roadmap probably, and they would be responsible for it. But the danger here is, in the end, the merchant is king. And because of the merchants, we all exist and do this, because merchants are driving the whole ecosystem. They're using the product, they're bringing in the money, which are then kind of redistributed to all the other members of the ecosystem. So the question to merchants is, like, Magento is a well-known brand, right? It's been here for, 13 years at least. And obviously, Magento is a trademark, and it belongs to Adobe. And that's one of the reasons and the benefits of working on some joint plan together with them is the name. Because otherwise, how would you convince a merchant to use some other product which is backed by a community initiative? Okay, we here in this room, we know Vinai, we know William, but other developers might know them as well. But how about a merchant in Ecuador, or a merchant in Australia, or a merchant in the United States? Have they ever heard of any of our names? I think not, because they live in a little bit different reality, and this is something we have to embrace, because we are looking at it mainly from kind of, don't call it sexism, but it's a boy's perspective. Like, it's a toy. Like, the code, writing code is really exciting. You're like passionate. You're doing this for passion. You like to do this. But for merchants, it is a business decision, and they look at it completely different. It's not so exciting for them whether it's a Hyva theme or a Luma theme or anything else. They don't care. They just want the front end to look like this and be fast.
For the same reason, they often don't care about the brand Magento. The agency implements and they advise, a system, and if that's something else than Magento, today someone sold another program than Magento to a merchant that was on Magento currently. They gave them the arguments why they should move away from Magento, and the merchant accepted it because they put that trust in the agency that's developing it. That happens a lot. We have this other side, and that's the bit more enterprisey side, where people might have failed with other systems, and they're looking to use Magento specifically, and they go to an agency that's specialized in Magento. That's maybe a bit higher up market, but there's I talk to merchants every day, not just the agencies, and all the merchants care about is that after they moved to Hyva, they had a free-time organic search traffic. That's what they care about, what this product that they can't pronounce, they probably don't even know that's called Hyva. They sold them Magento with a different front end. They might as well sell them a fork. The merchant cares about making money and not spending too much and not waiting too long for a new build. So if you can sell to a merchant to have a quicker build, spend less money, have a better product, better performance, better conversion, it's just a name.
But I think you're right.
It's not okay. It's not just a name. Yeah. It's a very strong. It's a very strong name and a very strong selling point. But I don't think it's strong enough to have Adobe strong-arm us into waiting what they want and just sit back and wait because, well, it all happens on their terms. That they cannot hold that against us to not do anything that's good for us. And we can still work with them and help them. They can help us. We can do this all in harmony, but we need to get some sense of control back. And we need to find our voice back and throw off the shackles and do fantastic stuff. And that helps the merchant.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it's the tail of the lion, you know? Like the guy running and the other guy say, like, why are you running? Well, there's a lion chasing me. Do you really think you can run faster than the lion? No, but I can run faster than you, right? And this is what's actually happening. Is yes, Magento is a strong brand now, but with the decline of the open source stuff, Adobe is a huge corporation. I get that, but their marketing machine is not stronger than the global agency market. And at the global agency market, those who work for the small and medium businesses, because those are the recommendations, those are the people giving out the recommendations for a software platform. If they argue that product X is stronger than Magento, all the marketing budget that Adobe has will not be able to work against that.
It shouldn't work against.
We've seen this firsthand.
It should work together, Matthias. That's my point, is that we shouldn't lose some segment. If I think maybe, you know, I'm dealing with a little bit different merchants. Like for us, majority of the merchants that our clients are in my agency, for them, it's important, the branding and Adobe's behind this product, because they look for stability and, you know, this kind of things that they wouldn't maybe necessarily find in some new solution, which would be perceived if it's a new name, a new brand, because they would say, okay, it's something fresh, it's not proven, I need to invest my money here, but I'm not sure if it will work out. So there is a segment of those, and maybe there is a segment that, for sure, there is a segment that comes to agency and say, okay, build me a website on whatever you want, as long as it will work.
89%.
So that I don't know what's the
number.
No.
That's a study on that. 89% of the decisions for open source software is done by recommendation of the agencies.
Maybe the recommendation is taken into account, but the decision is not made. I'm not sure how it's formulated. But anyway, the decision might be in the end by the merchant. But my point here is that we shouldn't lose any of those segments. And if we can find a way to combine it, and what Vinai was talking about, this ecosystem, Magento-shaped whole, and we were just talking today, when Magento was 7-8 years ago, there was a different fit. For really small merchants, you could build a website. It was affordable. Well, back then, still people complained Magento is difficult and expensive, but still it was much easier than it is today and took a little bit less effort. Now, platform is more complex. It went upmarket. Magento gained some share in bigger companies, but maybe it gave up the share of those smaller range of SMBs, which is no longer a good fit for. And the question is, if with this initiative somehow we can gain back this little, or smaller rather, segment of the smaller SMBs, which is in size is big enough.
Very big segment
and
of
we
small
cannot
market.
lose at the same time this big segment that Magento has right now. If we can have both of those working at the same time, I think that would be a success. And it is only possible, I think, if it's the same unifying product, which is kind of one. And that's, I'm saying, maybe that's ideal scenario, and I'm not sure if we would be able to reach it. But for sure, I think we should strive to this as an ideal option, to have one Magento open source that's good for all of those segments. That was the vision of the Magento. If you remember the slogan, I think that's one of my favorite maybe tagline Magento ever had, was that's the last platform you ever need. Because it's the first one you get, and it's good for you to grow forever. So I think if we can come back to that via the mutual effort, if there is a way to find it, for which I think task force can be a platform to discuss it. Think of it as a meeting room that Magento Association provides, and we're letting you guys, members of the task force, decide and recommend what you think makes sense together with Adobe, and take into account their voice. And maybe, you know, this could be our path to this ideal future that we paint.
Yeah. Okay. I think that we have 4 minutes left, and will be the time to say something, all of you, you know, in a row. The last statement about how can we improve, you know, the future of Magento Open Source. I'm going to take the chance to say something as well. Like, some privilege here. I was thinking about some of the conversations that we had in the last couple of days, and then I would love to see fresh people here. I think that we are all the time the same people, meeting each other in different conferences, and I really want to open the conversation to new rock stars, people that can, you know, being in the same state as I was, something like at 8 years, 10 years ago, with the same energy. I'm saying that I'm not having this energy right now, but maybe my circumstances are totally different, you know. And I think that we're losing a little bit, you know, this track, because we need to be a little bit more open. We are complicating things too much, and maybe we are closing a little bit the gate for that happen. I think that we need to be more inclusive, more to be listen up more ideas, even if they're crazy. Try to think a little bit more out of the box, and even if we have the command or company that is there not saying no to anything at the beginning, maybe we can break some rules together in order to improve what we have in hands. And I really want to embrace you to do it. That's exactly the aim of this panel here, and then waking up people to do something together. That is exactly the sense of open source, the sense of how I built my company in this little country because Spain, you know. And I really want this to happen. I love to meet people in different conferences, and I like Vukas, you know. And yeah, it is for me. It's, you know, was so fresh, you know, meeting him with his new ideas, and was someone, you know, that came pretty late in all of us, and I really want to see that happen more often. And yes, this is exactly what maybe we need to refresh some people in different areas, and also, you know, in the association, and trying to be a little bit more open, and maybe we need to shake a little bit, you know, how the things are already built in order to make it the Magento Open Source a brighter future for all of us. I'm going to drop the mic. No, it's 1 minute. So your turn.
Well, I'm really happy that, you know, after this open letter and a really hot discussion in the internet, it was stated clearly here that it's not an initiative against something, but for a better product, for a better ecosystem, and also that we see a really strong win-win possibility, a path to work together which will be beneficial for merchants, for agencies, and for Adobe itself. And yeah, I'm really like that. Of course, in this panel, you know, the lacking part is Adobe, and it's a pity they were not here. However, I think that the discussion will be continued, and I love the passion and that you guys proved that, you know, something which was considered impossible or too hard to tackle, you know, in a small group, you have proven that it's possible. You just have to, you know,
Do it.
Do it. Yeah. So thanks for that, and yeah, I think that if we start thinking in that direction, more things we considered impossible to change will also happen.
Thank you.
To evaluate on that, Adobe did try to come, but they still have an international travel ban in place currently. So yeah, it wasn't allowed. So, but they would like to have been here on this panel. And for me, I would like to see the Magento community thrive. It's my livelihood, it's my business. I do see a market potential in the mid-market, whereas Magento 1 could do the SMB, the S in the SMB market as well. But that gap has been captured by different SaaS solutions I get. So yeah, I look forward to a thriving Magento community with an open source product where we can work together on for a couple of years.
I kind of like that it's just us from the community here. It's really important that we talk with Adobe, right? But it's equally important that we as a community find our voice and do something, because that is where trust comes from. Right? If I see somebody do something and do it again and do it again, I can trust they'll probably do it again. Simple as that, right? So Adobe does things, I can trust Adobe. I do things, so that's how people trust me, my clients, right? And I think that's all for us. I mean, we all have a lot of business experience. So I think the truth is in the pudding, right? So we'll see.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Not much to add. I think that I mean, let's imagine Magento started without the open source variant. Just some PHP-based shop you buy for, what was it, 10,000 euros, dollars, something along those lines.
30K and up.
Huh?
30K and up.
That kind of vibe. Do you think Magento would be where it would be today?
No.
Not at all.
So, and the thing is, I have no bias whatsoever, because I'm no competition. I'm not even in the market, right? But I strongly recommend not to lose the community. So this would be what I would recommend to Adobe, because without the community in the first place, they wouldn't have bought the place. So getting rid of that is stupid from business perspective. Yeah, that would be my closing words.
Thank you. Willem.
Yeah, I'm generally happy with the direction where this is going. Like, I only see positive outcomes from here, and that's amazing. Either Adobe opens up and gives us a helping hand and enables us, and we have an open dialogue with them, directly or through the association. Good things are happening at the association. I think a sense of purpose was missing there, or a sense of urgency. I think for the longest time, I have had no clue why we would need an association until this became very relevant to me, and I understood that the community needs a voice and an entity that acts on behalf of the community. And I'm very hopeful that that can be established. And then thirdly, we're here, we have energy, and a group of really highly motivated people that want to continue working with Magento as we currently know it. No, not as we currently know it, even better. The better version, like how Magento could have been if there would have been continuous investment and innovation on that platform. And we're going to see great things over the next couple of years. And whatever direction this goes, we've set out multiple paths, and they're all great, and they're all going to bring innovation and a long future with Magento. Wherever this is going, we already won. Mm. So I'm walking away very happy today, and I'm super, super happy with the talks that I had today with the guys from the association and people from the community. And of course, we have these pitchforkers that try to clench on the letter that we wrote and try to put their negativity into that, and that's not us. That's not what our movement is about. We want to see how we can keep this community together and stop the drainage.
Thank you. Slava.
Yeah, I'm really happy with what's kind of going on right now, and the energy in the community and this passion. We were just talking today with Matthias and Timek also said that Magento event, and we heard this all the time, but it's really true that spirit and atmosphere at the Magento event is just at a whole different level comparing to any other ecosystem. And that's what sets us apart. That's why we take all the trouble to come here, because if it was just about the business, why would somebody come from all those countries to Poznań in Poland? Surely not to win business. Nobody is going to find clients here from us here. I don't know. It's just because we care about this product that helped us be where we are today, and many of us were able to build ourselves a really decent life by the world measure. I think we're in top, I don't know, 1% or 2% of people by kind of being lucky to do what we do in peace and make our living. And this is incredible, the amount of energy we have now. And I must say that as ecosystem, we went through many challenges before. Who are old enough to remember times of eBay, X-commerce? There were many things that that were kind of, we were going around and thinking like, what is going on? Like, what is Magento going to be? Like, where is this sense of direction? But all of those crises were resolved in the end, and we were able to make this new spiral to come up as the community to be even more mature, to make the product even better. And even though at times it seemed like we were coming to the dead end, that community is not the same, things are changing, community is shrinking, we heard that before. But we always came together and find the way to fix it and to make things better. Now we are even in a better position because Magento Association is here, and I genuinely believe in it because I also invested almost 3 years of my life into this organization. And again, not for commercial purpose, because not me, not any of the board member, we didn't gain any money from this. We just are here because of the community, because we want to do something to improve it. And now we have this organization here, which is already in place. And yes, it has many flaws. It did things wrong. We have not communicated enough, maybe not in a clear way, and we are still doing that. And maybe there are questions to the composition of the board. There are questions to the association management company. There are many questions to the Magento Association. But that's also exciting because it means that people, the community, also care about it. And the good news is we can change it. We can make it better. And the board right now is not complete. We only have 5 members, I think, at this time. And we need more to fill the seats. We have a chance to refresh the board. And we have a chance to change the whole way this works. We want to involve the members. We want the members to not be
just passive people not have an idea of what they signed up for. We want members to be in the state we have right now with this energy in the community, with members caring about what's going on in the community and having those members have the ability to influence the course, to elect board members and decide what the association should be doing. And I can promise you that for the time I have left on the board, I see no other purpose than moving the association to this state when it's kind of able to survive self-sufficiently. It has a renewal mechanism inside, and it can serve our goals when sometimes they are not clear until you see the need. Like William mentioned, it wasn't clear like what the association is for, but I was always telling people that it is to use it when the time comes, and when there is, now we see this clear need, because association can be this vehicle to kind of find the common ground between Adobe, between all our community, and hopefully enable the cooperation to make this product, the Magento Open Source, that so many of us were able to build the businesses on, to make it thrive and develop it and take the market share from other e-commerce platforms. So I think, again, I'll finish with what I started. We are all human beings on a basic level. I think we all want the same. We are inherently good, and when meeting people in person, you would just reinforce this, because you would see somebody on Twitter really hating something and throwing bombs around, but then you meet this person in person, and it's the nicest guy or girl in the world. So I think we just have to remember always that and work together, because in the end, it's a common goal that we all have. Nobody here wants anything bad for Magento. We only want it to thrive and succeed.
I think that we all of us, we have a big responsibility here, and I think that it's important to grab this energy and put something in action, in real action. Whatever we are in Magento Association, your company, new initiative or whatsoever, I think that we need to take the chance, to grab this momentum and do something great together. So, time's up. Kuba. Stop making crosswords there.
I'm so busy retweeting as never before.
Okay. Is there any plans for beer and party or something?
There's a plan for beer. We still have time. It starts at 7.
Okay. So I will also, try to embrace people to continue the conversation in the party, and I want you to give a big applause to the panelists. Thank you very much. Your time.
I would like to thank you very much for this panel. I'm really happy that you are here, that you came from so many different places to be on the stage, to be here, to listen, to take part in this discussion. Of course, it's like... Yeah, okay, I have to listen to the director. I'm happy that you had this discussion, and it's not only about me being happy, but the open stream on YouTube showed us that this discussion was important. I was so happy seeing there are people from Adobe, from community, commenting and saying that was important. So this is just a strong voice that we are building something. Just to answer some tweets, there are some questions that cannot be asked, and maybe we would have more time, or if there would be more people asking, maybe we could discuss it. But in every discussion, there are some questions. They are just not needed to be asked in public, because they are sometimes controversial. Sometimes they are asking about some hypothetical problems or situations, and it's really not the point. We are here to discuss how to build a better future together, not just to think what happens if and why it's difficult or why it's a problem. We know it's difficult. I know that it's difficult. I was there, and many of us were involved in many different things. We can have a lot of energy. We can have strong words, but it's a very, very difficult task, and we have to do it all together. And at this point, asking tricky questions and laughing that someone cannot answer that or becomes nervous answering it, it doesn't bring any good. It's just, it's pointless. Like it's all about business, about building better base for the business. So big thanks that you run this discussion this way, that at least from my point of view, and I think from YouTube viewers, it was very constructive, and I hope it's a start of a longer discussion, brainstorming, and real action to make this open source contributions and finally also Adobe Commerce a stronger product, because that's something I repeat it also again. I think that open source, even in this world of services becoming more and more popular, open source is a huge drive powering innovation for enterprise product. In open source, we can do a lot of things that are not possible in enterprise top-level product that have to be much more stable by design. There is
I would rephrase that. I strongly recommend, because being open source, it doesn't necessarily have to be less stable than that. But I think what open source, and I don't think this was what we were getting to, but what open source empowers is getting more adventurous ideas out in the world. I think that's what open source.
I think you just used better words. I agree. Someone also commented on YouTube that open source is about forking, as many times as everyone wish, because it's not that that there shouldn't be any fork. Everyone can make a fork of Magento even right now.
There's a button on GitHub to do it.
Exactly, and it's not about to fork or not to fork.
But read the license on Magento.com. Read the license. It's written there that they believe that the ability to fork a product and to redistribute it is a power and a strength in itself.
Exactly, and that's at least my vision is that we have so many smart people in the community that those people doesn't really have to write everything with their own hands, but they can combine the best elements from all those forks, from all those ideas, have those people together and just merge it into one strong product. Without all those forks, it's not really open source. It's just like something
free of charge software.
I think that many different, sometimes crazy forks of Magento can be only beneficial for the final product. I think that even like the most unusual fork of Magento can be a huge inspiration for Adobe Commerce product. It can bring innovation that nobody else thought about it before. Okay, this is something that we could talk a lot. And I think because tomorrow is like a very Polish business day, there is only one talk in English. We'll have place here to do some less official, not really streamed. We don't have like a technology to stream two different stages. But we can just have brainstorming and follow-up sessions just to keep building something. And having so many great specialists here, maybe there can be something substantial that can help Magento Association, all people involved in this initiative, just build a strong basis. Not just ideas, not just enthusiasm, but there can be something that Adobe, because they are listening, can make a good use of it. So yeah, thanks. And at 7, we meet here for drinks and snacks. So if you are really hungry, I think it's better to grab something bigger in the meantime. If not, you can just hang out here. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's have a picture all together like this. Some picture. Let's have a picture all together here.
We need widescreen. Everybody
The smallest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
So the camera off now.